Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our Working with Buyers seminar. My name is Robert with Elite Ocean View Realty. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very nice course for you today. We're going to go ahead and cover all the steps that we need to take as real estate agents when we work with buyers, from the buyer broker agreement all the way through the actual contract for purchase and sale. We're also going to cover the compensation agreements and much, much more. Guys, if you have any questions, please feel free, unmute yourselves, ask questions. Otherwise, please remain on mute so we can have a nice recording. And if you'd like to ask questions in the chat, I always look at the chat and respond to your messages. Right now, we're looking at our YouTube channel. We are recording our session, and I invite you guys to visit our YouTube channel and watch all of our classes. So, for example, the class we had on Tuesday, which was the CMA workshop, it is already up on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to rewatch this class, it's here. It's inside of the YouTube channel. If you look inside of your chat, I am going to share with you right now the YouTube link. All right, so inside the chat, you guys all have the YouTube link. You guys can go ahead and save this to your favorites, bookmark it, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you watch all the videos from Elite Ocean View Realty. All right, so a couple of weeks ago, or at least last week, we did have the Working with Renters class. So those of you that work with renters and you want to know the steps to take, you can rewatch that. And then I believe next week I am going to have the Working with Sellers class. So we're going to go ahead and cover all the steps you need to take when you're working with a seller. All right, so let's go ahead and begin our class today. It is working with buyers. I'm going to take you through every single step. You are, of course, going to need the MLS matrix, right? You're also going to need form simplicity, right? You're going to need form simplicity. And then you're going to need to pretty much know where you can go to find inspection companies, right? And then, of course, lenders as well. So let's go ahead and begin with our class. So inside of Form Simplicity, we need to get a buyer broker agreement signed from our buyer to even begin showing properties. So this is a new rule, a new law that was put into effect this year on August 17th, that going forward, in order to work with a buyer, even to show a property, we must have an exclusive buyer broker agreement signed. So where can we find this agreement? Everyone, you're going to log into Form Simplicity. If you don't know where Form Simplicity is, inside of your resource panels here, you're going to find the Form Simplicity icon. That's it right there. You guys are going to click on Form Simplicity. It's going to log you into Form Simplicity. This is where all the forms, this is where all the addendums, disclosures, where everything is located. All right. So from here, you have blank forms, right? So you got blank forms. We can click on blank forms. You can also click on our packages. So we do have packages right here where it says forms packages. You can go there. You can open up the buyer package. You'll see it now, the buyer package. And you are going to open the exclusive buyer broker agreement transaction broker. All right. You want to download a copy, you can simply click on it and hit download. All right. Or you can create a transaction from this package. So if you want to create a transaction, that's what I'm going to do. We're going to pretend that today my client's name is Michael Jordan, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select the exclusive buyer broker agreement. Now, we don't have an address yet, right? We don't have a property yet. We're going to go to our initial consultation with our buyer. So we're going to create this transaction. And since we don't have an address yet, we're going to go ahead and click on add to a new transaction and just simply put Michael Jordan. You don't have to put in an actual street address. And I'm going to go ahead and put in Michael Jordan buyer. The transaction name is also going to be called Michael Jordan buyer. The property type is going to be for residential. I'm sure that by now he's told you, hey, I'm looking for a house. I'm looking for a condo. And then the transaction type is going to be purchase, right? We're going to go ahead and do purchase. And then click on add to a new transaction. All right, so now our form is ready. Here it is, the exclusive buyer broker agreement. We're gonna go ahead and open it, and I'm gonna show you briefly what you guys need to put into the exclusive buyer broker agreement. All right, so let's open it and let's discuss. So right up here where it says parties, consumer, this is your buyer, right? So you're gonna go ahead and erase where it says and or assignee, and you're just gonna put in Michael Jordan. If it's Michael Jordan and his wife or someone else, then of course you're gonna write the word and then put in the other person's name. Where it says broker, it is Elite Ocean View Realty. You can also put in a hyphen and then put in your name, right? You are the representing agent. So Elite Ocean View Realty and then your name. As far as term is concerned, this agreement is good for how many days or how many months? Usually it can take up to 6 months to find a property and close on a transaction. So you want to give yourself at least 6 months. So right here, we're going to go ahead and put in today's date. So today's date is October the 3rd. And then we're going to come here and we're going to make this agreement good until March 3rd. All right. So until March 3rd. All right, and we have here a 6 month period. Now, when it comes to line number 3, property type, don't limit yourself to just a single family home or a condo or a townhouse. Go ahead and just type in the word residential if that's what they're looking for. Are they looking for a residential property? Then type in the word residential. For location, don't just tie yourself up to one particular city. Let's say your Michael Jordan says, hey, I'm actually interested in a property. I want to buy a property in Miami Beach. But what if you find them a property in Coral Gables, or if you find them a property in Fort Lauderdale? All right. So you want to do this. You want to do Miami-Dade and Broward County. Now, of course, if you think that you may even go up to Palm Beach County, then you want to put in Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. All right. So I'm just going to go with Miami-Dade and Broward County. That is the location. Okay. This agreement is going to discuss our obligations to the buyer. So number 4 is all about our responsibility to the buyer, what we are going to do to earn our compensation. All right, so that's what paragraph number 4 is. Paragraph number 5 is the consumer's obligation, their obligation to us, right? They need to basically count with us on every single property. They need to be available to see properties. They need to also follow instructions with any lenders or title companies or inspection companies. They need to follow through on that. So that's the paragraph number 5. They are going to initialize the bottom of the first page, and you, the agent, you're going to initialize the bottom of page 1. Page 2, number 6, talks about a retainer fee. Now, you guys need to keep in mind that prior to August 17th, we barely ever used the exclusive buyer broker agreement, but it is now the law. So when we present this to our buyers, we need to let them know our worth, right? What we are worth as far as our job and what we're going to perform, and that we don't work for free. Now, we have included a $1,000 retainer fee that they will pay us to begin working with us. This retainer fee is non-refundable. All right, so it's a non-refundable retainer fee. It's almost like an advance. If you feel like you do not want to charge a retainer fee, then just go ahead and put in 0. That means that they do not have to pay us anything in advance to begin working with them. But if you feel like this is a buyer who is iffy or it's not 1,000% ready to work with you, then you may want to charge a $1,000 retainer fee, showing a level of seriousness. Okay. So that's number 6, retainer fee. Now, who gets this retainer fee? The broker gets the retainer fee, and then the broker will pay you based on your split. All right. This is money to you. This is aside from the compensation. It's a non-refundable retainer fee. Now, number 7 is compensation. And this is where we're going to talk about how much are we going to make in this transaction that we work with the buyer. So we have put here aggressively 4%. All right. Normally, we want to make around 3%, maybe 2.5%. We put in 4%. We urge you to present this at 4% to your buyer. And if they say that's too high, then you want to go down to 3%. If you start at 3%, they may say that's too high and they may want you to go down to 2.5% or 2%. Whatever you place in this line right here is what you are going to make at the end of the transaction. So if you place 2.5%, you are limiting yourself to just making 2.5% from the buyer or the seller or a combination of both. So don't limit yourself to a minimum. So we put in here 4%. What happens? If the seller is paying the buyer agent compensation of 3%, then the buyer only needs to pay you 1 more percent, and that's a total of 4. If the seller is paying 2% to the buyer agent, then your buyer owes you another 2% at closing. If the seller pays 1%, then your buyer owes you 3% at closing. So if you think 3% is acceptable, then just put 3%. What happens? We go searching for properties and the seller ends up paying 3% compensation to the buyer agent, then your buyer does not owe you any money at the end of the transaction. Okay? All right, let me check here. All right, so there's a question on the chat. Can we put any amount in the retainer fee? Yes, Paula, you can put any amount in the retainer fee. It does not have to be $1,000. We recommended $1,000, but it doesn't have to be $1,000. Okay. All right, guys. Don't forget to also include the $495 transaction fee, which we've already written it for you. Okay. This buyer broker agreement can also be used for leases. Notice here, there's letter B for leases, and we've included here 5% of the lease, of the yearly lease, plus the $95 transaction fee. Now, you do not need a buyer broker agreement to work with a tenant. You do, however, need a buyer broker agreement to work with a buyer. All right, so that's the only difference. So you don't necessarily need one of these to work with a tenant, but you will need one of these to work with a buyer. Okay. And then here under the additional fees, compensation on purchase for pre-construction property and new developments, you have here 7%. All right, where we've written, you're going to try and make 7% of a purchase of a new construction project. Of course, guys, all of this is negotiable, right? All of this is negotiable. And then this is good for 365 days. Your protection period is good for 365 days. And then down here, you have additional terms, any additional terms, and then make sure that your consumer, your buyer signs this, and then you will sign where it says authorized associate or broker. This is the buyer broker agreement. Make sure you have one of these signed in order to begin showing properties to your buyer. All right, very, very important. It is the law. All right, so let's go ahead and close that out. That is the first step when you work with a buyer. Of course, the next step is, are they pre-approved? So have they been pre-qualified by a lender to purchase a property? Don't go right away to the MLS and start searching properties and scheduling showings without really knowing how much they can afford. So if they already have a pre-approval letter, please ask them to show you the pre-approval letter, to send you the pre-approval letter. So now you know what is their budget and what they can afford to purchase. If they have not been pre-approved and they do not know a lender, we have our own lender right? A loan officer that works with Elite that can help your buyer. I am going to share with you in the chat her business card. Her name is Elisa Leone. All right. And you guys are going to have it right now in your chat. Go ahead and download this. This is the business card for our loan officer, Elisa Leone. Please keep this. And the next time you have a buyer and this buyer wants to get pre-approved, call Elisa and let's get this process started. All right. Claudio, you have a question.
Yes, quick question. So let's say we should get them, shouldn't we get them pre-qualified first or the exclusive agreement first?
I mean, if this is a serious buyer, I
Hmm.
want to lock them up. See that exclusive buyer broker agreement now locks them up to us and they can't
Oh,
go
okay.
and talk to another agent.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, got it.
Yes, I want to lock them up first, and then yeah, we'll start giving them all the help they need, pre-approval, things of that nature. Okay,
Got
everyone,
it. Thank you.
guys, absolutely. Everyone, please check your chat. I just shared with you our lender's email, business card, so you guys have it and you can speak with her. Okay. All right, so now that we have our pre-approval and they tell us, hey, Robert, I am pre-approved for $500,000, then now you know that you can go search for properties in the $500,000 range. Okay, so of course you're gonna go ahead and start your search. You're gonna start your search. Now, guys, I may go ahead and send them a few properties at the beginning while we're getting pre-approved because it's good for them to kind of look at the properties. But you cannot show a property to any buyer without that buyer broker agreement signed. All right. So let's just make sure that that's in place. You know, we're gonna go ahead and put in here a zip code. I'm just gonna go ahead and look for any property. All right, I'm gonna look for any property here. And here we go. We got $540,000. All right. So let's say that we have a buyer and we showed this property and your buyer says, you know what, I really want to buy this property. All right, I really want to buy this property. It's in my price range. It's in my FHA price range. It's, you know, everything. So the next step is to create an offer, right? Let me backtrack real quick here. Does everyone on this training here know how to schedule a showing? All right. If you don't, I'm going to go ahead and show you. First thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the broker remarks. If there's any instructions here, you know, like call listing agent, text listing agent, text for more information, follow the instructions in the broker remarks. Then come down here and look for showing instructions. Electronic lockbox, no appointment, showing assist. So electronic lockbox, that means that you guys are going to use the Supra E key that everyone has downloaded to your phones. Hopefully everyone has the Supra key on your phones. You're going to use that Supra key to open the door. Now, if you don't have the Supra E key, please download Supra E key, call the Association of Realtors, and make sure that you register it. It is free. Make sure you register it so you can start using your Supra E key. It's also letting us know that there are no appointments required. It's on electronic lockbox. That means that you can pretty much drive up to the property and open it. However, they want you to schedule an appointment. So go to showing assist down here, showing time. That's showing assist. Click on it. All right, we're going to click on showing time. Then you're going to see here, go and show, instantly confirmed with appointment requested. All right, so you're gonna come here and you're gonna schedule a single showing. You're gonna put in the date and the time that you like to see the property. And in this case, it's a go and show. You don't have to wait for confirmation. But in some cases, it's gonna tell you wait for confirmation. So you gotta wait for a returned confirmation. Okay. Now that you have your confirmation, go see the property. And when the buyer tells you, yes, I want to buy the property, now it's time for us to put together an offer. So follow me on this. You see over here where it says Form Simplicity. There's a logo right here for Form Simplicity. We're going to click on this logo. And it's going to open up our Form Simplicity program, and it's going to populate all the information of the property into Form Simplicity. Okay, so you're going to see here that the list price is $540,000. Then it's going to ask you for the seller's name. We find out the seller's name by visiting IMAP. Guys, take a look up here. We're going to click on Matrix. And you see this right here, IMAP, this little icon up here. I'm going to right click on this and click on Open Link in a new tab. All right. The owner is Elizabeth Bernard. Now we know who the owner is. All right. Remember, go to Matrix, click on the IMAP logo. It opens up IMAP, which is public record. And now we know that the current owner is Elizabeth Bernard. So we go back to Form Simplicity under Seller, Landlord, and we write Elizabeth Bernard. All right. Next, we're going to come down here and we're going to put in a purchase price. Elizabeth would like to offer 400, sorry, not Elizabeth, Michael. Michael would like to offer $499,900. All right, so that's my client's offer on this property, 499,900. The buyer's name, of course, is Michael Jordan. So go ahead and put in here Michael Jordan, and then your information shows below. Click on Save to a Transaction, and now name this transaction right here. Transaction name. It's going to be the property address. I'm also going to put in here hyphen Michael Jordan. Right? We're going to put in Michael Jordan here. This is, of course, a residential property type, purchase transaction type. Save to a new transaction. All right, we have now created a transaction with the property. The next step is to add the offer, right? So we have everything in forms packages for you. So you want to come here and you want to add forms package. You don't have to go to the blank forms. Go to the forms packages. Select the buyer package. We have every single form here selected. Now you do not need all these forms. So I'm going to uncheck them. And we already have a buyer broker agreement signed. So we skip that one. We need the as is residential contract for sale and purchase. That is your offer. If the purchase is a condominium, you will need a condo writer, a condominium writer. It is not a condo. If this property were inside of an HOA, then you will need the homeowners association community disclosure. No need for that one. If this property was built before 1978, then you're going to need the lead-based paint disclosure. This property probably has been built for a very long time, 1955. So yes, lead-based paint disclosure. And then you're also going to need the compensation agreement, seller to buyer broker. Compensation agreement, sellers to buyer broker. We want the seller to pay us a compensation, right? So add to a transaction, and that's all you're going to need for your offer. That's all you're going to need for your offer. So we're going to go ahead and add those three forms: the as-is residential contract for sale and purchase, the lead-based paint disclosure because the house was built before 1978, and the compensation agreement. Now, by now, you should know already how much compensation is being paid, right? You went to the house, you saw the house, you told the agent, my buyer wants to place an offer, and you ask, hey, how much compensation is being paid? And they tell you 2.5%. Right? They tell you 2.5%. So let's go into the compensation agreement real quick. And let's make sure that we put in 2.5%. So the buyer broker is Elite Ocean View Realty. Again, you can put in hyphen and you can put in your name. Seller, we have Elizabeth Bernard. We have over here the property address. And we have the selling broker, Anthony Askowitz. All right. So if you leave number 3 blank, which is the term, it's going to go to 30 days. Think of how long it's going to take you to represent your buyer in this transaction. I'm going to go with 45 days. All right. It's going to take me 45 days to close this transaction. So let's go with 45. This is not the contract, guys. This is the compensation agreement. All right. So what is the buyer broker going to be compensated? All right. How much? So we talked about 2.5%. So you check the second box and you put in 2.5% of the gross purchase price of the property plus, right, any other fees that are paid to us. Any other fees that are paid to us, let's say there's a bonus or some type of concession that is also going to be paid, then you put that here. Otherwise, 2.5% of the gross purchase price. Make sure there are initials on every page by the seller and you guys, the buyer broker associate. All right. Make sure the last page is signed by the seller and by you guys, the authorized associate for the brokerage. This is the compensation agreement. We'll save it. And now let's go into the contract. So the contract is the as is, right? The as is residential contract for sale and purchase. We're going to go ahead and go in to the contract. And right here we have the as is residential contract for sale and purchase. Now, this is not a contracts class. I am not going to read word for word, line by line, the entire contract for you. I'm only going to kind of point out the major parts of the contract. All right. So we have the seller's name and the buyer's name. We have the address. We have the folio number, which is the parcel ID, and we already have the legal description, right? Why did we have that? Because we went from the MLS and we clicked on Form Simplicity and we created the transaction. Therefore, everything gets populated. All right. Now, purchase price and closing. We are purchasing the property for $499,900. How much in deposit does Michael plan to give when placing the offer? We're going to go ahead with $10,000 deposit. This deposit should be made within 3 business days, and this deposit is going to be made directly to the title agency. Now, we have our own partnership with our own title, and this is Marina Title. All right, this is Marina Title, and you guys, I'm going to go ahead and share with you, give me 1 second here, the information for Marina Title. So I'm going to go ahead and type it here. You guys can take a screenshot of it. You can call me. This information is also provided inside of Form Simplicity. All right, so we use Marina Title, and their address is 12955. So 12955 Biscayne Boulevard. Biscayne Boulevard. And this is going to be Suite 300. The phone number for Marina Title is 305. All right, 901 5628. And the email address for Marina Title is info@marinatitle, all right, .com. Now, guys, if you don't want to use our partner in title, that's fine. You don't have to. If your buyer already has a trusted attorney who wants to do the closing, then put in your buyer's trusted attorney here. This $10,000 deposit needs to be deposited after the offer has been executed, right? After this contract for purchase has been signed by the seller. It needs to be deposited within 3 business days, and you're going to have it deposited into that title escrow. Okay. All right. Is there any additional deposit? Usually, an additional deposit will take place 10 to 12 days after the acceptance. So why do we put in here 12? Because the inspection period normally is about 10 days. So if you are going to give an additional deposit, you want to make sure you give that additional deposit after the inspection period. All right. So we put in here 12. You guys can put in 10, or you don't have to give an additional deposit. So we're going to say 0, right? We're only going to put in a $10,000 deposit. Now, what type of loan is your client going to take out? So let's say it's an FHA loan and they're going to take out a loan of 96.5% of the purchase price. That means that they're going to give what? 3.5% down. So where it says here financing and expressed in percentages, how much are they going to finance? They're going to finance 96.5%. All right, that is not what I wanted to do. 96.5%. All right, so 96.5% is what they're going to finance. Right away, letter E is going to give you the balance to close. So an initial deposit of 10,000 plus a balance at closing of $7,496.50 is your total down payment for the property. This does not include closing costs. Closing costs is additional out-of-pocket funds. This is the balance to close based on a purchase price of $499,900 and a down payment of 3.5% with financing of 96.5%. If this were a cash transaction, then you don't put a percentage here, and here where it says E, you're going to put in the amount that you're going to bring to the closing table. So 499,900 minus 10,000, that's 489,900. Then that's the number you put here. You can also write the word balance. You don't have to put in 489,900. You can just write the word balance. Okay. All right. Time for acceptance. Today is Thursday, October 3rd. I like my offer to be accepted by Monday, October 7th. All right. 3 business days. Give the seller enough time to review the offer and accept the offer. If on October 7th, this offer has not been accepted, then this offer is deemed expired. Okay. Closing date. We'd like to close by, let's say, the middle of November. All right. November 13th. So it says here, closing shall occur on November 13th, 2024. If at that time we're not yet clear to close and not ready to close, then you want to go ahead and extend the closing date. All right, moving on. Financing. Is it a cash transaction? A. Is it a finance transaction? B. It is a finance transaction. This contract is contingent upon 30 days. All right, after the effective date, we get a loan approval. So we have 30 days from the day that this is accepted to get our loan approved. Okay, this is going to be an FHA loan, right? We're going to do an FHA loan. Now, right here, you are taking out a 30-year loan, and you need 5 days from the effective date to apply for financing. All right, so you're telling the seller that your buyer will apply for financing within 5 days from the effective date. Moving on down, go to page 5. Page 5 talks about the inspection period. All right, We have written here a 10-day inspection period. If you leave it blank, it does default to 15. Most sellers will not accept a 15-day inspection period. You want to put in a 7 or 10-day inspection period. During this inspection period, at any time, the buyer has every right to cancel the contract and get their deposit returned to them with no reasons at all. During this inspection period, it is your responsibility to help your buyer schedule an inspection, have the inspection performed, review the inspection report, and negotiate any credits to your buyer based on, damages to the home. If there is nothing to negotiate, then we have the green light to move forward. If your buyer doesn't feel like the property is in good enough conditions to move forward, you have that 10-day inspection period to cancel the contract and have everything returned. So this is why that inspection period, usually they do not like for you to put in 15 days, because that gives 15 days to the buyer and it makes the seller kind of wait 15 days to make sure that the contract is actually going to go through. So sometimes they're going to request that you do an inspection within 7 days. We have here 10 days as our default. Okay. I want to tell you guys that once the contract is accepted, start looking for an inspection company right away and schedule an inspection for as soon as possible. You want to make sure that the inspection report is in within the first couple of days so you have time to negotiate maybe some seller credits to your buyer, all right, or a lower price on the purchase. All right, pretty much everything else is very standard, so I'm actually going to go right through all of this. I'm not going to go and cover the entire contract until we get to this page right here. All right, so this page is page number 11. All right, in number 11, we're going to check what we are going to include in our contract. So we are going to include an FHA financing addendum. So this is an FHA deal, so we're going to include that. We're also going to include the lead-based paint disclosure, right? And then eventually there's going to be a seller's property disclosure that your buyer is going to have to sign. And then you're going to erase the conveyance to a foreign buyer because Michael Jordan is a US citizen and not a foreign buyer. If you have a foreign buyer coming from another country, then yes, you need the conveyance to a foreign buyer addendum. All right. So FHA financing, if this is an FHA deal, it is, so we select it. Lead-based paint disclosure, if you are including one of those, we are. And then the seller's property disclosure will eventually be sent to you. All right. The additional terms, any additional terms, we've already written here that the buyer is going to pay a transaction broker fee of $495 at closing. Okay. Seller shall close any and all open, expired, or code violation permits at seller's sole cost prior to the closing. All right. Do not erase this. We want to make sure that all open permits and all code violations are taken care of prior to the closing. And then the last page, of course, is for signatures. Your buyers are going to sign this. The seller, then when you submit the offer, the seller sign it. And now we have an executed contract. Guys, if you haven't purchased eSign yet, you're going to purchase eSign. Right up here is the eSign logo. You are going to set this up so your buyer can electronically sign the documents. You don't want to have to just print and have them physically sign them. You don't want to have to send a PDF, so then they have to print it and sign it. Just go with the e-sign. The e-sign is $84 for an entire year, unlimited e-signing. Okay. All right. So attend the Form Simplicity class to learn more about e-sign and how to get that done. I'm going to go ahead and close out the buyer agreement. Sorry, the purchase agreement. We're going to click on save and close. The next step is to actually come here and look at the lead-based paint disclosure. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take a quick look at the lead-based paint disclosure. And on the lead-based paint disclosure, normally the seller is going to send you this, but if they don't send it to you, then you want to send it to them. So the seller's going to say whether they know of any presence of lead-based or not. So for letter A, they have the second option defaulted here. Seller has no knowledge of lead-based. And for letter B, seller has no reports or records of lead-based. Usually that's the case. The sellers are going to have to initial A and B. And then the buyer is going to initial C, D, and E. All right, the buyers are going to initial C, D, and E. You are going to initial F, licensee's acknowledgement of the seller's, lead base. All right, seller will initial, seller's agent is going to sign here, signatures, and then your buyers are going to sign here, and you are going to sign down here. Okay. All right, guys, go ahead, save that. That's your lead-based paint disclosure. And let's close this out. And I did mention that we have the FHA financing. So we're going to add an additional form. Watch this. All right, we're going to come over here to add blank forms. We're going to go over here to where it says search forms, and I'm going to type in FHA. Right, we're going to type FHA, and we need the FHA addendum for the Florida Bar Residential Contract and Addendum. This one here, all right? It's the one that says FL Bar, Florida Bar, not the one that says FAR Residential Contract. It's this one, the first one. So you select it and you add it to the transaction. All right, there it is. Open it. All right. During an FHA purchase, an appraisal is required. When you're running a conventional loan or you're doing a cash transaction, while an appraisal may occur, all right, it's not going to be contingent on an appraisal unless you make it contingent. Here, in this case, for any FHA purchase, the property will be contingent to the purchase price. So right here, all right, for number 3, you're going to check FHA financing, and the purchase price is $499,900. That means the property needs to appraise at $499,900 or above in order for this transaction to go through. If it appraises much lower, then we have a situation, right? The buyer can negotiate with the seller to lower the price to the appraised price, or the buyer has the right to walk away, right? So either the seller drops the price, or the buyer agrees to pay out of pocket the difference, or the buyer walks away because the lender or the lending institution is not going to loan more or not going to allow you to purchase the property for more than the appraised value. So once again, if the property appraises at $550, that's great news for your buyer. They can go ahead and purchase the property and they have potential equity in the property. But if the property appraises at $475, then we have a difference, right? We have like a $25,000 gap that we need to somehow get rid of. So we have that time to negotiate with the seller to try and bring that purchase price down to $475. Or if your buyer really likes the property and they have the extra $25,000, they can throw it in. Or you guys can agree to meet somewhere in the middle. So you can say, seller, I'm willing to pay $485, right? $10,000 above appraised value. And the seller agrees. So now you are going to do an addendum saying that the purchase price is $485. All right, guys, this is your FHA addendum. Make sure that the buyer and seller sign it. All right, we're going to go ahead and close it. By the way, there is no time frame as to when the appraisal gets done for an FHA deal. See, the appraisal must be done in order to get a loan approval. So That's the difference between a conventional loan or a cash loan or a cash deal that you can say this property is contingent on appraisal and the appraisal needs to get done within 15 days. Not so with an FHA appraisal. An FHA appraisal is going to get done when it gets done. All right. And then after that, we can move on to loan approval. All right, guys, one more, and that is an addendum. I need to discuss how you're gonna implement an addendum or add an addendum into your transaction and what to do in an addendum. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up blank forms, right? Or packages. Just open up packages. This is much easier. Open the buyer package, remove all of these. You don't need all of this. And what we're trying to add here is an addendum to a contract right there. Go ahead and click on add to a transaction, add it, and now we just added a blank addendum to the transaction. So I mentioned before dropping the price. So this is what you will need to do. Addendum to the contract. Open it. Okay. And this is addendum number 1 in this case. But let's say this is the third addendum, then you put addendum number 3. Here, you're going to put in the date that the contract was made official, right? Signed by both parties. So today, October 3rd, it was signed by both parties. And then somewhere down here in the space provided, you're going to write this: seller and buyer agree to a new purchase price of $485,000. Then you're going to write all other terms and conditions of this contract remain the same. All right. Conditions of this contract remain the same. And that is how you are going to write an addendum. Okay. You're going to save it. You're going to have the buyers and sellers sign it. Now, let's say you needed an addendum to extend the inspection period. It's going to be the same thing. You're just going to write here, seller and buyer agree to extend, right? Agree to extend inspection period to say October 15th. And then all other terms and conditions of this contract remain the same. All right. Or seller and buyer agree that seller will credit $10,000 to buyer at closing. You know, anything that you want to add to the contract, you add it by doing an addendum. You don't rework the contract. You don't go back to the contract and rework it. All right. It's too messy. Just add addendums, make changes, have everyone sign it, and we're good to go. All right, guys. Any questions in these steps, guys? These are the proper steps you're going to take when you are working with the buyer. Now, where can I find an inspection company? Go to MiamiRealtors.com, right? The website for our association, and go to affiliates. Go to affiliates, and then come here and click on Miami Affiliate Directory. Miami Affiliate Directory. And then look for inspection companies. Right? So look for the home inspection companies that I passed it already. Let me see here. Home inspection and engineering. Come here. Now, of course, if you already know an inspection company that you like and you want to use and you've used them before, feel free to use them. These are some of the top inspection companies in South Florida, guys. We had Allied Building Inspection, and they're great. They're here in Miami-Dade County. TrueView Inspections, once again, it's another great company. They're here in Miami. We have House Masters Home Inspections. They're in Broward. We have here Infinity Inspection. They're in Miami. Max Home Inspections. They're in Broward. So these are some of the inspection companies. We have South Florida Inspectors, really great. They're also here in Miami. Call them, right? Or have your buyer call them and schedule an inspection right away. I already shared with you guys our lender, but I'm going to go ahead and share again. We have Elisa Leone. She works with our office. She is our loan officer, guys. If you need lending services, please use Elisa Leone. She is one of our loan officers and she will help all of your buyers get approved. If your buyer already is working with a lender, with a bank, then that's okay. But if you need help from a lender, please use our loan officer, Elisa Leone. All right, guys, that is the steps you're going to take. Of course, everything else will fall into place, right? We have the inspection performed, we have the appraisal performed, and then we get the loan approval, and then we get clear to close. You're going to take all those steps, and then you're going to go to closing, and we have a new transaction, and congratulations. All right, guys. So those are the steps we're going to take to work with a buyer. Does anyone here have any questions before we close out our training? All right, no questions. Pretty clear on what we just covered. All right,
Yeah, pretty.
guys. Awesome. So make sure that you guys visit the YouTube channel. We're going to go ahead and load this video within a couple of hours to the YouTube channel so you guys can rewatch it. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to Teo, our broker. We're here to help, guys. All right. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.